Hello, welcome to this live session from Seibert Media. I have a guest today. It's Leon Bernard from Balsamiq. Hi, Leon.
Hi.
Thank you for being here with us. We actually, we can see the Atlassian, one of our biggest sponsors for this year's Toolsvelter Teams, but we want to talk about Balsamiq today. And Balsamiq and Atlassian actually have a couple of things in common. We can talk about this later. Tools for Agile Teams is the conference, and you're a sponsor. And I've taken a couple of questions. First is don't you think that kind of prototyping, which Balsamiq does, is a thing inherently done with paper? Isn't that your biggest competitor? How do you see that?
Actually, we do think paper is our biggest competitor. That's one of the reasons why we tried to make our tool very fast and very easy to use. And we still use paper for the very early stages, but I think we don't use it so much for collaboration. I think it's good to maybe get some of your initial ideas down, but if you have a bunch of people in one room and you have a whiteboard or a big sheet of paper, I think paper works pretty well, but pretty soon you start to run into some of the limitations, and especially when you want to capture it or remember it, then you're stuck taking pictures of things and you can't zoom in. So if you ever want to start preserving something, or if you're working with people who are in different time zones or who can't make it there, you're doing some kind of you want to do a screen sharing, or maybe work on something asynchronously. Just the benefits of having something digital really become a good argument for moving toward something digital.
Yeah, I would say the paper is unbeatable, but in a lot of situations, even if you have an office, people are not in the same place. So you can't share this paper. You may be able to take a photograph, but other people would have to print it out and then sketch on the paper and take a photo again. And after the third iteration, no one would be able to see anything anymore. So as soon as people get dispatched in different locations, even at home, like you're at home right now, I'm at home, so that can be pretty fast. Balsamiq is one of the tools. Actually, let me show the Atlassian thing again. Is Atlassian a big business for you? Balsamiq is part of Atlassian's tool suite, right?
Well, we're one of their top plugins, and we've been one of their plugin products for a very long time. I don't know the exact numbers as far as percentage of our revenue, but our Confluence and Jira plugins are very popular. I think maybe a little less than they were in the very beginning, because several years ago we created our own standalone kind of cloud-based product. But the plugins are great, and I think our original vision actually was just to have this product as a plugin for Atlassian. And it's still used by a lot of people.
And I see a lot of people with our Atlassian customers who use drawing tools like Draw.io, which also have like a mock-up mode. Using Balsamiq aside that, how come? Like, I'm always astonished that now you have this Draw.io thing and you could do mock-ups, but you still use Balsamiq. So is that a competitor, or how do your customers see that? How do conversations with them go about that?
Yes and no, as far as it being a competitor. I mean, the nice thing about these tools that are a little bit more multi-purpose and multi-function is that a lot of people have them already. So maybe you have a side license for a diagramming tool in Confluence or something, or you work in an office where everybody has PowerPoint or Visio or something like that. But a lot of these tools, they do have a very broad function, and for people who work in the software industry, software UI design has really become its own discipline now, and it wasn't always that way. And so seems to be that the typical progression is people will start in a tool that's maybe a little bit more generic, and then if they really, if they're doing UI design or UX for a living, they're going to need, a specialized tool at some point. I mean, I'm a UX designer, and I started out in PowerPoint and then Visio with the stencils. But then at a certain point, I was doing user interfaces, on a daily basis, and you kind of reach a point where you're like, I need a tool that's just for this, that's optimized for this, that really doesn't do anything else.
Let me support that. Like we have people in our company and partners of ours who will kind of swear if you don't let them do their mockups in Balsamiq. They're really fanatic about that. So there seems to be a unique point about your software that hits them. So if we're talking about your mockup software, what's next? What's the next things for diagramming or for mockup software like Balsamiq to come in the next years? What are you planning right now, and what are you planning like in the next years? What shall we look for when we look at your software in the future?
So even though we've been around for 7 years now, we still feel like we're working on our original vision for the product. So we're not really adding a lot of features, I guess you might say. We're not, you mentioned before, what do our customers say, or what are they asking for? A lot of them are asking for more high fidelity things, or they want to make their mockups look either more polished or add more interaction to them. But we're really trying to keep the scope focused on what we wanted originally, which is just to make a simple to use tool for wire your idea out and do it fast. So we're still trying to work on making that, working towards that an original vision, and just making the existing functionality better and easier. So the two main things that we're working on for the future are one, having better collaboration. So more people being able to work on the tool at the same time. So we do offer this in like our Google Drive plugin. You can have multiple people connected and actually editing the same mockup at the same time. So we want to have that in all of our products. And then, as probably a lot of the customers know, we're still dependent on Flash for our application, and so we're trying to move away from that. So we want to build native versions for all the different operating systems. So that's that we have a large chunk of our team working on that right now.
Oh, okay, awesome. So if I should summarize that, I would say you're still after the paper thing, like not high fidelity, everything has a glow and something, but rather like with the paper, it's pretty fast and easy, and everyone can do it. Then concurrent editing, which I think is pretty awesome. Although I think there are a lot of situations where you still have this asynchronous mode. The concurrent editing has this kind of feature that makes people excited, right? And then, Flash, I understand. Like people are moving away from this technology. So what's the last thing that you implemented with, I think it's Balsamiq 3, right?
Yes. So earlier this year, we released a new version which addressed some of the, mostly focusing on usability issues that were around from the beginning, and then added a few power user features. But I think one thing that we implemented recently that's kind of interesting is the ability to create alternates of a single mockup. So this is kind of a way of, in a way, it addresses what you were saying about asynchronous collaboration, that an alternate is kind of a branch of a single mockup. So this happens just naturally, where you have an idea for something and you want to get it down, and then you kind of want to explore, what if we put the navigation over here? What if we kind of treated this, differently, but you don't want to overwrite what you were doing before. So it both allows you to kind of explore different directions of a single design, but it's also a good way for other people to give you feedback or contribute their ideas to design without changing your original idea. So that's something we introduced recently, and we're really excited about. But it's something that also, for the casual user, it doesn't really add a lot of complexity, because if you never use it, you don't even have to know that it's there. So
Keep
that's something
branching
we're really excited
in
about.
Balsamiq. Cool. Let me come back to this fidelity thing. When I'm thinking about 37 signals, or I think today you've got to say Basecamp, it's a pretty basic product. They only have a certain amount of features, but they have been working and still working very hard to make them the most seamless project management tool ever. And I know it's the Atlassian thing, but Jira can't be Basecamp in the realm where Basecamp is true. But people grow out of that. Like, if you grow too big with your products, you have to use Jira. Basecamp just can't do the job. And I think that Balsamiq is maybe a similar tool. Like, when you look at the paper, you can start sketching really quickly. But if you want to do a photo, you won't do it with a pen. You need a printer or something else. So do you have a lot of customers that ask you, I want to do photographs with Balsamiq, but and I start drawing, and then I get to the point where I want to make this better, and then I've kind of grown out of Balsamiq, and now I'm angry at you because you don't support me anymore? Is that something that is just part of your product? Or do you think it's just the wrong process and they don't understand iterative, agile approaches? What's your take on that?
It's a very interesting question. We do get that a lot. That's probably one of the number one requests or pieces of feedback that we get is people say, we love your product, but we just wanted to do more. And our founder, Peldi, I think he's been really good about keeping the scope very focused, because we know that we could do more, but it would make the product harder to use. And I think everybody in UX wants just one tool, one tool to rule them all. And my feeling, at least, is that it's just not possible. It's not possible to do something that can have it be, you want to put in your final realistic graphics, you want to have the different click and hover states and transitions and interactions and all of those things. But then it's kind of a different stage of the process. You're kind of building the product at this point, and we're focused more on the early stage. And so I think professional UX designers, a lot of them have multiple tools, just like any professional is going to have multiple tools. And so I always say, start with Balsamiq. It's a tool in your toolbox, and for a lot of people, that's all they need. Our core persona or user group is product managers, people who need to communicate with people who are building software, but they're not the ones who are really thinking about the nitty-gritty. They're thinking about their ideas. So a lot of my UX designer friends, either they don't use Balsamiq as their primary tool, or they don't use it at all. Because they're maybe delivering things to clients, or they need to present a final-looking prototype, so they'll use something like Axure or something where you can really hook up a lot of different states and add these interactions. And we've made a decision, from the beginning that we're just, you can click through mockups in our software, but we're not going to do anything more advanced than that. And it's helped keep our company small and our product focused. And we really try to focus on usability and then having a good customer experience with us. So we deliberately say that we don't compete on features, and so it's hard to tell people no sometimes, but we feel like it's been a key part of our success. But what you're saying about Agile, I've worked in Agile environments, and I'm a big believer in it. And I think one of the nice things about using these kind of quick and dirty or low fidelity mockups is that it encourages or facilitates or almost requires person-to-person communication. So I used to write Agile stories, and I would just put in some mockups and some acceptance criteria, but knowing that that wasn't all of the detail that was needed to build it. So, Agile is not, waterfall is here's something and then you toss it over the wall and then you never have to talk about it again. But if you have just something that's a sketch, you may have, it means that you then have to actually talk to your developer and talk about the details or sit over their shoulder as they're building it. But you give them a little wireframe and that's enough for them to get started, and so it's really kind of, and it's quick to revise, so they can say, no, we can't do that or whatever, and you can go quickly make a change. So it really encourages that collaboration, because you're not just off in your corner building something that's pixel perfect and then you think you put it up on the wall as a work of art. It's a more active living thing that encourages people to actually work together. So
which already covers the agile question. Like the iterative process is supported by Balsamiq awesomely. Okay, let's talk about, I'm an agile team and I'm using, let's say, Atlassian Jira or Confluence or whatever. I simply can get your plugin from the marketplace and get going, correct?
Yes.
Okay, if I'm in an agile team without Atlassian tools, what am I going to do?
So without any Atlassian tools, so we have our desktop product, which you can download and purchase per user. So you only have to, only the people who are creating the mockups need to buy it, and then they can send it around as PDFs or as PNG files. We also have a Google Drive plugin, which is convenient for people who use Google Apps or just Gmail or whatever. And again, only the editor needs to pay for it. So other people can actually, in that case, they can view the files without having
that's also
without paying anything.
That's also a difference for the Atlassian tools, right? You also have a per editor licensing there. Is that true?
Yes, we do. So it will generate. It'll generate a mock-up and put it on the page, and you're only paying for the people who are actually creating it.
Yeah, which is also a big difference to things like Draw.io, where you have to license all the people. Okay, so if I want to get going without the Atlassian tools, it's
www.balsamiq.com.
And Balsamiq is with a Q at the end, right? Only
That's
Q.
correct, yes.
Okay, we're going to put it in the video and below also. Leon, thank you so much for joining us today. If you've seen that and you're interested, come to Tools for Agile Teams conference and learn more about Balsamiq and other tools for Agile Teams. Thanks so much, Leon, for being with us.
Thank you, Martin.